Have you ever left a doctor's appointment feeling uneasy, dismissed, or even doubted because of your age? If you're a woman over 60, this video could be a game changer for your health and possibly even save your life. We're exposing 5 shocking questions doctors ask that might seem innocent but could hide dangerous assumptions, manipulations, or outright ageism. From subtle tests of your mental sharpness to condescending judgments about your future, these questions can impact your care in ways you might not realize. Stay with us until the end because the 5th question is disturbingly common, and knowing how to respond could protect your independence and dignity when it matters most. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. 1. Are you sure you want to know the results? This question often surfaces in the quiet, sterile atmosphere of a doctor's office, typically after a screening test, a blood panel, or an imaging scan. The doctor might pause, let out a heavy sigh, or offer a sympathetic smile before uttering those words. Are you sure you want to know the results? On the surface, it sounds like concern, a gentle attempt to shield you from bad news. But let's peel back the layers. More often than not, this question is less about your emotional well-being and more about the doctor's own discomfort, time constraints, or even reluctance to engage in a difficult conversation. Explaining medical results, especially when they're complex or potentially serious, is no small task. It demands time, patience, and a genuine commitment to clarity. The doctor must translate jargon into plain language, anticipate your questions, and guide you through the implications of the findings. This requires not just medical expertise but also compassion and emotional intelligence, qualities not every physician prioritizes or has the energy to muster during a busy day. Some doctors use this question as a subtle tactic to discourage you from probing too deeply. It's a way to downplay the significance of abnormal results or nudge you toward a state of blissful ignorance. After all, if you don't ask for details, they don't have to spend 20 minutes breaking down your elevated liver enzymes or that shadowy spot on your X-ray. But here's the harsh truth. Ignorance is not bliss when it comes to your health. Early knowledge can be the dividing line between catching a problem when it's manageable and letting it fester into something life-threatening. Let me share a story that drives this home. I once treated a 68-year-old woman named Janet, a retired schoolteacher with a warm laugh and a love for knitting. She came to me complaining of persistent fatigue that had worsened over months. Her previous doctor had ordered blood work but dismissed her concerns with a casual, "Everything's probably fine. Do you even want to hear the full breakdown?" Trusting his expertise, Janet shook her head and left the office, reassured but still exhausted. 6 months later, she sought a second opinion from me. We pulled up that same blood test, and what I saw made my heart sink. Her iron levels were dangerously low, her platelets were steadily dropping, and there were other red flags that pointed to a potential bone marrow disorder. These were early warning signs that could have been addressed much sooner with proper intervention. Instead, because her previous doctor hadn't taken the time to explain the results, or worse, had actively discouraged her from engaging with them, Janet's condition had progressed. We caught it in time, but the delay cost her months of unnecessary suffering and a more complicated treatment plan. This isn't just one isolated case. Studies show that miscommunication or withheld information between doctors and patients contributes to delayed diagnoses in up to 20% of cases, particularly for conditions like cancer or autoimmune diseases. So, if your doctor hesitates to share your test results or acts as though they're doing you a favor by sparing you the details, you have every right to be suspicious. Their job is to inform you, not to gatekeep the truth. You're not asking for a privilege. You're demanding what's owed to you as a patient. Here's what you can do. The moment you hear this question, respond firmly but politely. Say, "Yes, I want to know every detail. Please walk me through the results and what they mean for my health." Bring a notebook or record the conversation, with their permission, where required by law. Ask specific questions. What do these numbers indicate? Are there other tests we should consider? What are the next steps? If the doctor seems evasive or rushed, don't let it slide. Request a follow-up appointment or seek a second opinion. Your health is worth the extra effort. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, Please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. 2. Do you really want to go through all that at your age? This question is insidious, cloaked in a veneer of kindness but dripping with condescension. When a doctor asks, "Do you really want to go through all that at your age?" they're not inquiring about your preferences, your goals, or your physical resilience. They're making a snap judgment based solely on the number of years you've lived. This is medical ageism in its purest form, and it's alarmingly common. In my decades as a physician, I've seen this question erode patients' confidence, diminish their hope, and rob them of opportunities for better health. Let me paint a picture with a real-life example. I once cared for a woman named Margaret, a vibrant 72-year-old who walked 2 miles every morning, tended a thriving vegetable garden, and hosted weekly book club meetings. She suffered from severe knee arthritis that left her wincing with every step, yet her spirit remained unbroken. She consulted an orthopedic surgeon about a knee replacement, a procedure that could restore her mobility and ease her pain. But instead of discussing the surgery's risks and benefits, the surgeon planted a seed of doubt. "Do you really want to go through all that at your age?" he asked, his tone heavy with implication. Margaret left the appointment questioning not her health but her worth. Was she too old to deserve relief? Was her pain something she should just accept? When she came to me, hesitant and disheartened, I was livid. Margaret was an ideal candidate for the surgery. Her heart was strong, her blood pressure was well controlled, and her active lifestyle suggested a high likelihood of a successful recovery. Yet that one question had made her feel like her age disqualified her from a better quality of life. We reviewed the data together. Studies show that knee replacements in healthy older adults can improve mobility and reduce pain in over 80% of cases, with many patients resuming activities they love. Margaret decided to proceed with the surgery, and within 6 months, she was back to her morning walks, pain-free and beaming with pride. This kind of ageist rhetoric isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. Research from the National Institute on Aging indicates that older adults who encounter medical ageism are less likely to pursue treatments, adhere to medical advice, or even seek care in the future. Doctors who ask this question often operate from an unconscious bias, assuming that a patient's best years are behind them. They make internal calculations based not on your health metrics but on stereotypes. 70 means slowing down, 75 means settling for less, 80 means why bother? But you know better. Your age doesn't define your dreams, your resilience, or your capacity to heal. If a doctor ever poses this question, stop them in their tracks. Say, "Yes, I do want to go through this because I value my health and my future. Let's discuss the risks and benefits based on my medical condition, not my age." Push for specifics. What are the success rates for this procedure in patients like me? How will it impact my daily life? If they can't provide evidence-based answers, it's time to find a new doctor, one who sees you as a person, not a number. You are not a burden, and you deserve a physician who champions your right to live well, not just exist. 3. Have you considered just letting nature take its course? This question cuts deep, often delivered with a serene tone, a sigh of faux wisdom, or an air of philosophical finality. When a doctor suggests, "Have you considered just letting nature take its course?" it can feel like they're offering a profound, almost spiritual perspective. But don't be swayed by the gentle delivery. More often than not, this question is a cop-out, a way for a doctor to sidestep the hard work of explaining your options, discussing risks, or advocating for your care. And disturbingly, it's disproportionately directed at older women, as if their lives are somehow less worth fighting for. Let's be clear. In true palliative care settings, where a patient is terminally ill and comfort is the priority, this conversation can be appropriate. But far too often, I've seen this question used prematurely, when viable treatments exist, and the patient is nowhere near the end of their journey. Let me share a case that still haunts me. An 82-year-old woman named Eleanor was admitted to the hospital with early-stage breast cancer. She was otherwise remarkably healthy, volunteering at her local library, playing bridge twice a week, and living independently in her cozy apartment. Her primary care doctor, however, took one look at her age and suggested, "At your age, maybe it's time to let nature take its course." Eleanor hadn't been offered a referral to an oncologist. She hadn't been told about lumpectomy, a minimally invasive surgery with a high success rate and quick recovery for early-stage cancers. She hadn't even been given a chance to weigh her options. The doctor's recommendation wasn't rooted in her prognosis or her wishes. It was based on an assumption that her life was nearing its natural end. When Eleanor came to me, confused and scared, I sat with her for over an hour. We reviewed her scans, discussed survival rates, over 90% for her stage with treatment, and explored her values. She chose surgery, recovered swiftly, and 5 years later, she's still thriving, teaching her bridge partners a thing or two. This isn't an isolated incident. Data from the American Cancer Society shows that older women are less likely to receive aggressive treatment for breast cancer, even when they're healthy enough to benefit. The phrase, "let nature take its course," often masks a doctor's reluctance to invest time or resources in a patient they've mentally written off. It's a betrayal of trust, and it robs you of your autonomy. You have every right to refuse treatment, but that decision must be informed, not coerced by a doctor's biases or sugar-coated platitudes. If you hear this question, don't nod politely. Challenge it. Ask, are you saying there are no viable treatments left? What would you recommend if I were 50? Is this advice based on medical evidence or your perception of my age? These questions force the doctor to justify their stance and often reveal whether their recommendation holds water. If they backpedal or can't provide clear answers, seek a second opinion immediately. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. 4. Who's making your medical decisions for you? At first glance, this question might seem routine, especially if you arrive at a doctor's appointment with a spouse, child, or caregiver by your side. It could sound like the physician is simply clarifying who's involved in your care. But let me share a critical insight that most patients never consider. This question can be a subtle test, and the way it's asked, or the assumptions behind it, can reveal far more about the doctor's mindset than your own. When a doctor says, "Who's making your medical decisions for you?" they might be doing one of two problematic things: assessing your mental sharpness without being upfront about it, or looking for someone else to defer to because they don't fully respect you as the decision-maker in the room. Both scenarios are deeply troubling and can have lasting consequences. Let's break it down. First, the doctor might be probing your cognitive abilities under the guise of a casual question. A slight pause in recalling a medication name, a moment of hesitation, or even the presence of a family member can trigger an assumption that you're not all there. Instead of conducting a formal cognitive assessment, like the Mini Mental State Exam or Montreal Cognitive Assessment, they rely on snap judgments. This is not only lazy but also dangerous, as it bypasses evidence-based protocols. Second, the question can signal a lack of respect for your autonomy. By asking who's making your decisions, the doctor might be fishing for someone more reliable to address, effectively sidelining you. This is particularly common with older patients, especially women, who are often stereotyped as less assertive or capable. Let me share a story that still stings. Eleanor, a 76-year-old patient of mine, came to a routine checkup accompanied by her daughter, who had driven her due to icy roads. Eleanor was a fiercely independent woman. She managed her own medications, balanced her checkbook, and cooked elaborate Sunday dinners for her family. But during the appointment, she paused briefly when asked about the exact dosage of her blood pressure medication. The doctor seized on that moment, turned to Eleanor's daughter, and asked, "So, do you usually help her make medical decisions?" In an instant, Eleanor became invisible. For the rest of the visit, the doctor directed all questions to the daughter, dismissing Eleanor's attempts to speak and interrupting her concerns about a new symptom. By the end, Eleanor felt stripped of her dignity, reduced to a bystander in her own health care. Here's the part most patients don't realize. That moment didn't just end in the exam room. Once a doctor forms an impression of cognitive impairment or dependency, however flimsy the evidence, they often document it in your medical chart. Notes like, "cognitive concerns noted," "impaired judgment," or "requires family input," can appear without your knowledge or consent. These entries create a paper trail that follows you, influencing future care, insurance decisions, hospital protocols, and even legal matters like guardianship. A 2023 study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that vague or unsubstantiated chart notes about cognitive decline were present in up to 15% of older patients' records, often leading to inappropriate treatment restrictions or referrals. In cases where a patient genuinely needs support due to dementia or cognitive decline, a conversation about decision-making is necessary. but it must be transparent, respectful, and based on proper testing. It should never be triggered by a single pause, a gray hair, or the presence of a family member. Unfortunately, ageist assumptions often drive these interactions, and women are disproportionately affected. Research shows that older women are more likely than men to have their autonomy questioned in medical settings, even when their cognitive function is intact. So, what should you do if a doctor asks this question? Take control immediately. Respond with confidence. I make my own medical decisions, but I value input from my family. Is there a specific reason you're asking? This response asserts your authority while inviting the doctor to justify their question. If they persist in addressing others instead of you, call it out. I'd prefer you speak directly to me, as I'm the one making decisions about my health. Request a copy of your medical records after the visit to check for inaccurate notes, and if you spot any, demand corrections in writing. If the doctor continues to undermine you, find a new provider who respects your autonomy. You are the driver of your healthcare, and no one should take the wheel without your explicit permission. 5. Are you still driving? On the surface, this question seems innocent enough. Driving is a daily activity, and doctors sometimes need to assess it, particularly if a patient has a condition like epilepsy or severe vision loss that could impair safety. But here's the problem. The context and timing of this question can reveal something far more insidious. If you're visiting the doctor for an unrelated issue, like a blood pressure check, arthritis management, or a skin rash, and they suddenly ask, "Are you still driving?" It's time to pause. This question might not be about your ability to drive at all. Instead, it's often a covert way to screen for cognitive decline, judge your independence, or assess your decision-making skills without being transparent about it. It's a test you didn't sign up for, and the results can haunt you. Doctors may use this question to gauge your memory, spatial awareness, or self-awareness, assuming that your driving habits reflect your overall mental state. The problem is, they rarely explain that's what they're doing. If you say yes, they might note in your chart, "Patient still driving," may not be aware of own limitations. If you say no, they might write, "Loss of independence. Monitor for further decline." No matter how you answer, the response can be twisted to fit a narrative of frailty or impairment, often without any formal testing to back it up. This is especially common for older patients, particularly women, who face stereotypes about aging and competence. Let me share a real-life example. Clara, an 80-year-old patient, was sharp as a tack, volunteering at a community center and managing her own finances. She came to me after a routine visit with another doctor left her shaken. During a discussion about her arthritis medication, the doctor casually asked, "Are you still driving?" Clara explained that she drove during the day but preferred not to at night due to glare from headlights. The doctor nodded, but later, Clara's insurance company contacted her, citing a concern about her driving ability flagged in her medical records. The note read, "Surprised to hear patient still drives. Monitor for cognitive issues." Surprised? Why? Because Clara was 80? Because she wore glasses? Because she made a prudent choice to limit nighttime driving? That single question, asked without context, triggered a cascade of consequences, including a costly driving evaluation she didn't need. This isn't just about one patient. A 2022 report from the American Medical Association highlighted that older adults are often subjected to inappropriate driving-related scrutiny in medical settings, with women over 75 facing disproportionate questioning. These notes can lead to serious outcomes, reports to state driving authorities, license restrictions, or even legal discussions about guardianship, all without a diagnosis or standardized cognitive assessment. In some states, a doctor's report can prompt a mandatory driving test, even if the concern is based on ageist assumptions rather than evidence. The deeper issue is what this question represents: a societal bias that equates aging with decline, creeping silently into your medical records and eroding your independence. Driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's a symbol of autonomy, and questioning it without cause can feel like an attack on your freedom. So, how do you respond? Be direct and proactive. Say, "Yes, I drive, and I'm confident in my ability." Is there a medical reason you're asking, or is this a routine question? If you don't drive, explain why on your terms. "I choose not to drive because I prefer public transit, but I'm fully independent in my daily life." Follow up by asking, "Will this be noted in my chart?" And if so, how? Request a copy of your records to ensure no misleading comments are added, and correct any inaccuracies immediately. If the doctor's tone or follow-up questions feel dismissive or judgmental, trust your instincts. Seek a provider who evaluates you based on your health, not stereotypes about your age. Your independence is yours to protect, and no one should undermine it with a seemingly harmless question. That's a wrap on the 5 shocking questions doctors might ask that could impact your health and independence, especially if you're a woman over 60. I hope this video has opened your eyes to the subtle ways ageism or manipulation can creep into your medical care and empowered you to take control of your health. What's one thing you've learned today that you'll bring into practice in your life? Maybe it's challenging a doctor's hesitation to share your results or confidently asserting your right to make your own medical decisions. Drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories. If you found this video helpful, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights to protect your health and well-being.